Here we go. Hello, everybody. Welcome back. Leah is back with me. It's Starlight Beacon Transmissions Live. We are here on another Saturday night. It's our second Saturday night back before we take 1 week break next week. Um, I'm going out of town for next weekend, so I will not be. There will be no live show, but that's fine. We'll be back the following weekend because that way we can talk more about Star Wars and Star Wars comics. And tonight, we're not talking Star Wars tonight. We're not going to talk anything about that,
No,
right, Leah? No,
never.
it's hockey season here in Eric's house. So yes, I've
Ah,
got my pucks. Okay, wait, yeah, I've got my pucks. See, you
very
know,
nice.
I've got hockey on the second screen. So if you see me throw something at the wall or something, no, I'm kidding. I'm not going to do that. But
I used to play hockey back in the day.
really,
I was a goaltender, a netminder.
oh, well, you're pretty tall anyway.
I'm tall and I'm flexible, and I have basically every sport that I played that had a goalie position in it. I was always the goalie because
I
I
can
was
see
just
it.
good at it.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I mean, I've been skating almost as long. I mean, I haven't skated in a while now because I live in Los Angeles, but
There's hockey in
um,
LA.
I learned to skate not long after I learned to walk. So like
There you go.
perks of growing up in Wisconsin.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah. You know,
But yeah,
you were born with pee wee hockey up there.
oh yeah,
Oh yeah. When you weren't catching walleye on the lake.
uh, yeah, but yeah,
Yeah. I mean, I could see it. I could see you being a goalie. That's awesome.
oh
That's
yeah,
really awesome.
yeah.
Yeah.
I wasn't
So
half bad.
no, no, I bet not. I bet not. I mean, like more goalies like welcome to the hockey podcast.
Welcome to the
Um
hockey cast.
yeah. I mean like more goalies like taller goalies definitely like use their reach, especially like more around the net to
Yes,
like kind of yeah, definitely,
yeah.
especially like for top shelf shots and stuff like that. 5 hole has to be the worst though. As a tall goalie, like 5 hole has to be the worst.
Honestly, being flexible makes the 5 hole not that bad. I've got to say, going from being a hockey goalie where like you are constantly on your knees, you're sliding
Oh
around,
yeah.
you're scrambling on the ice. Um, Very different ball game when I started playing lacrosse.
Oh yeah.
And but I would still just on instinct, like if I
Drop to
see
the
the
butterfly.
ball coming in low, I would drop to the butterfly and not, but I was not wearing big hockey goalie pads, so then I would have like horrible bruises all down my legs from stopping the ball with my legs.
That's
Um,
awesome though.
it was fun. I was good
Not for
at
your
it. Like I
legs, but
said, see, because the thing is, I'm sorry that we're going on this whole sports tangent. So like a good hockey goalie
there's sports in
percentage
Star
is
Wars.
in a good hockey goalie save percentage is in the upper 90s, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Hockey
Yeah.
goalies need to block almost everything that comes at them.
Yeah.
A good lacrosse goalie,
It's like
60s and
50 to
70s.
60s. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, so I was going in with this insane expectation. So I was like forcing myself to be like, oh man, I've only got like an 80% save percentage. And they're like, you have like the best save percentage in the area.
It's awesome. Uh
Anyway,
yeah, sorry we went off on a tangent there. But it's hockey season. Like I had to express my passion for it. Um anyway, so tonight we are going to be talking a little bit about Leah's time at LA Comic Con, and then we are going to jump into our main discussion, which is going to be all about the end of the Galactic Civil War and the Battle of Jakku, because we have it. We actually are getting some sense of what happened in between Return of the Jedi and Battle of Jakku, with a lot of stuff that they're setting up now, especially in comics. So yeah, we are just going to, we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about Alphabet Squadron, Aftermath, Battlefront 2, Lost Stars, which I haven't talked about Lost Stars in a very, very long time. Um, but yes, it is so good. And yeah, and then, we're just going to have fun because that's what this
We're
is
just
about.
gonna have fun.
Yeah.
I am. This is kind of a sidebar.
Sure.
I am almost certain I'm going to slip up and say Battle of Jeddah at least once during this
Oh, me too.
recording, because I am constantly High Republic brained. Anyway,
I mean, Battle of Jeddah is so big.
the
Anyway,
Battle of
like,
Jeddah was big.
yeah.
I think the Battle of Jakku was bigger, like in terms of numbers of people, but
And the
Battle of
stakes.
Jeddah was big,
And the stakes.
and the stakes.
Yes, the stakes for Jakku
Yes,
were a
the
little
Battle of
bigger than.
Jeddah was about a war between two planets. The Battle of Jakku
It's a
was
war.
much more.
Hmm.
Um, yeah. So Battle of Jakku. Let's
Well,
talk about
LA
non-Star Wars
Comic Con.
first, and then we'll get into it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. LA
Um,
Comic Con. How was it?
LA Comic Con was good. I debuted my Dr. Jakob Eyes Necromancer cosplay, which he is a character. He's the main character of the comic, The Principles of Necromancy,
Hmm.
written by Colin Kelly and Jackson Lansing, the Hive Mind, as they're called, and art by Eamon Winkle. Fantastic art from him.
Yes.
Um, it a horror, body horror, fantasy comic. Volume 2 is getting worked on right now, so that's really exciting. I am apparently the first person to cosplay the main character from it. And according to the artist, he had been told that he had made a character who was impossible to cosplay, so he was happy that those people were proven wrong when he
Hmm.
saw my crazy latex and foam mask.
That's awesome.
Um, and yeah, it was great. They were all super excited to see it. I have also from that con, as I have before, but I think this time it's going to stick more. There's always a big group of droid builders at LA Comic Con.
Join us.
Um, and yeah, I I think I'm gonna have to make a motorized RJ-83 to ride on
Oh,
my shoulder.
yes.
I've
Yes.
already started 3D modeling up his parts, and yeah,
So going to RJ-83 real quick, and then we'll talk more
yes.
about this comic here, just real quick. Um, I'm really surprised Disney has not released an RJ-83 like at Droid Depot or something.
I'm sure they're like waiting on something.
Yeah.
I also RJ, he's got the same problem as BD1, which is he's bipedal, which makes him inherently harder to like
Oh yeah.
make
Yeah.
as a because like Lola's not bipedal, so they
Yeah.
immediately made her. Chopper R2, obviously
Yeah.
BB
Excuse me.
even
Sorry. Yeah.
BB. There's a whole thing, BB is difficult to build, but
Oh
still
yeah.
possible for a like hobbyist droid builder to make.
Oh yeah.
Whereas like BD with his little legs, borderline
Yeah.
impossible.
Yeah, because if you're gonna do the BD, like you almost like have to just focus like on the head for the
Right.
motorization.
Every BD build that I've seen from droid builders has been either a puppet, which they're
Mhm.
always phenomenal.
Oh yeah.
Puppet work is just magic to me.
Yep.
Um, or and this was actually one that I saw at LA Comic Con. The person made a mouse droid, one of the most straightforward droids to
Oh
build.
yeah. Absolutely.
Uh, But then on top of the mouse droid was a BD unit. So like the head and stuff were motorized, but the legs were just standing on the mouse droid. The mouse droid, of course, houses all of the heavy computer parts and
Oh
stuff,
yeah,
and then just some wires go up the legs to move the head and stuff.
that's awesome
Fantastic,
though.
genius
Oh
solution.
yeah.
I think the mouse droid's name was Cal.
Oh, that's great. Yes,
Cal with
that
a
makes
K,
perfect
you know.
sense. Yeah, but that makes perfect sense though. That BD would be would be with Cal. Like it just makes
Exactly.
perfect sense.
No, it was a fantastic, so because this is a person who in the past has made like a puppet BD that
Yeah,
he had like a falconer's glove and then had the
mhm,
BD mounted on that.
that's pretty cool.
It was very cool, but it, basically bipedal droids very hard. So
Yeah.
I actually wouldn't be surprised we if like Droid Depot had Romy from Young Jedi Adventures,
Hmm.
the new droid from season 2, before having uh
Yeah.
BD, or not BD,
RJ.
RJ.
Yeah.
Um, I can see them making like an RJ backpack though, because he
That'd
is a
be a lot of
backpack.
fun. That would be a lot of fun. Yeah.
Um, yeah,
So this comic, Principles of Necromancy, I'm on the Vault or the Magma comics. Sorry,
yes,
I,
Magma
I I get
Comics.
them a little confused. Um, but yes, Magma Comics. I'm looking at the website now, and you said Volume One is over. They're working on Volume Two. Was
Yes,
Volume One only 3 issues? Hey
4.
Heidi, how's it going? It was
Uh,
4.
Magma, brand new company. They wanted to start by just having very like short runs just to
Yeah,
test the waters, which I think smart call. Don't overcommit.
absolutely.
Don't whatever. 'Cause they're a small company, creator owned, new, just trying to figure things out.
Yeah,
Um, Principles of Necromancy, I think, was their like
this is their flagship.
big. It was their biggest hit.
Yeah,
Because it was the first one to come out as well.
yeah. I
Um,
mean, I mean, Colin Kelly and Jackson Lansing, like that is a huge writing
I
group.
mean, pretty much all of the names that they got for their first series of runs are huge. They
Yeah,
had Orlando. They have
yeah.
Kevin Scott doing one now.
Yeah, I'm
Um,
looking at it right now. Yeah, Kevin Scott, Stephen B. Jones, Amy Garcia,
yeah,
Lansing and Kelly. They call themselves the Hive Mind.
the Hive Mind.
Yep, Steve
Um,
Orlando. Um,
Kevin Scott's is also really good. Orlando's was also really good.
yeah,
Um,
Eamon Winkle.
yeah,
Yeah, that's awesome. That is
it's
so
it,
cool.
it, it's um, it's a fun comic. Horror. It's gory. It's
Hmm.
um, the characters in it are very interesting. The world that they've built in it, they did a great job with only 4 issues of making this like very interesting story.
Yeah,
And then they're making more because
yeah.
people liked it.
So Kevin is writing Night of the Slashers,
Yes.
which I do kind of want to read this one.
It's
I'm not,
I only issue 1 is out, but it was
yeah,
very fun.
it's
Um
yeah. It says Hill Creek is a lovely place to visit, except the one night of the year its citizens transform into bloodthirsty maniacs. Of course, that's the very night Laura's bus breaks down, stranding the disillusioned teen and her classmates in the secluded town.
it's
Secret.
literally just like how can we fit the most slasher villains into one comic series?
It says secrets uncovered, terror at every turn. Will anyone survive the night?
It's
And
great.
it's
It's
yeah.
it's it's a slasher film,
Hmm.
it's just fantastic.
Well, I mean,
Very Cavan.
Cavan did just finish his run on Union Jack the Ripper for Blood Hunt.
Exactly. Like
Yeah.
this is Cavan's ball game.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Um yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome. Um yeah, so I was telling Leah before the show started, we're actually we're still going to cover mostly Star Wars, but we're actually doing a lot where we're going to be covering other comics and other forms of media at times. Especially like right now, we're kind of in a lull when it comes to Star Wars news. Um, but there was something really cool that the Star Wars books Twitter actually tweeted out about New York Comic
Right.
Con. Um, if you are going to New York Comic Con and you stop by the Penguin Random House Worlds booth, and you say a secret phrase, which I'm not going to say the secret phrase because you have to look at the tweet. But if you say the secret phrase, you will get an advanced reader copy of the brand new Reign of the Empire book, which is coming out in February. So just keep your eye out if you're going to New York Comic Con. Get ready. Also, if you're going to New York Comic Con, there are many booths that you need to check out. Of course, many different publishers. I know Magma is probably going to be there, right, Leah?
I actually am not 100% sure. I have not been
Okay.
paying attention to anything around New York Comic Con since I am on the
Okay.
opposite side of the country.
That's fine. But check out Boom Studios, which definitely check out Boom Studios for Power Rangers and Something is Killing the Children. Check out IDW, especially with their Star Trek run. Check out Dark Horse because Star Wars. Check out Marvel because of Star Wars. DC, anything but Batman, in my opinion, because Batman has too many damn books. No, I mean if you're a Batman reader, that's cool. Now I'm just gonna get a bunch of tweets that are like, "What's wrong with Batman?"
Look, my entire experience with Batman while reading DC lines has just been he'll occasionally show up in other things. I'm like, oh look, Batman, I know that guy, and then I do not look any further into it.
Exactly. It's like, oh, okay, there's Batman. Of course, it's a Justice League title. Batman's gonna be
That's
in it.
also how I deal with Superman. To be fair,
I mean, yeah, I get it. I get it.
and most of the X-Men and most of the Avengers. Anyway,
No, no, that's fine.
I
All
don't
right.
deal with the main characters.
The side characters are the best anyway.
You gotta love the side
Of
characters.
course, of course. Like Green Lantern is like my favorite DC superhero. So, all right, let's get back to the fun now. So I'm glad that you had a great LA Comic Con. I'm glad that you
Yeah,
met
it's my
Jackson.
home con. I always love
Yeah,
it.
I'm glad that you got to hang out with Kelly and Lansing. That's
Kelly
really
and
awesome.
Lansing, they're both local, so they're at pretty much every con in the area. So I have
Nice,
seen them a couple times before. But just
nice.
every time I'm able to bring another comic of theirs to get signed, so I can't complain.
you're you're getting on a first name basis with them.
D- I have so many issues of the Star Trek run signed by them now. Just every time something happens with the original characters from this comic, like not the ones who are carried over from the shows, I'm just
Yeah.
like, you did it again. Sign it. Acknowledge what you did to my favorite character.
Acknowledge it. Look at it. Or to quote Daniel Day-Lewis from There Will Be Blood, look what you did to my boy. All right. So let's talk about the end
Okay,
of the
Battle of
Galactic Civil
Jakku,
War.
the
So,
end of the Galactic Civil War.
yes.
Uh, the 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 12 issues that we're getting that are going to be covering the same length of time as the last 50 issues plus crossover events of ongoings.
hmm I mean,
Um,
most of those, yeah, all of those runs went over 40 issues. I think Bounty
yep,
Hunters was the one that ended at 40.
41.
41.
Afra was 40.
That's right. Okay, so yeah, Afra and Bounty Hunters had shorter runs.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So yeah, go run with it, and I'll chime in.
Um, Battle of Jakku was originally part of the big like publishing push before leading up to and around the release of Force Awakens, kind of explaining one, how did we get from the end of Endor to the end of the war,
Hmm.
and like leading into what comes after that. Two, um, why are all of these crashed ships on this random desert planet? Um, and three, hey, let's just publish a bunch of books that are just a lot.
Yeah,
Um,
they were a lot.
so the books published around that time that really focused on the Battle of Jakku and the build up to the Battle of Jakku, that last year of the war, were the Aftermath trilogy and Lost Stars.
Hmm.
Aftermath, I admittedly have not reread since they came out. They were like my first canon books that I read. I had read Star Wars books before that.
Yeah.
I was around before the acquisition, but um, you know, they were the first canon book, the first new canon books that I
Hmm.
read, because they were some of the first. Period.
They were. They were after
Um,
New Dawn, I believe.
yes, and some of the ones that were like grandfathered in.
Yeah.
Anyway, um, but yeah, so those ones focused mainly on this new cast of characters with kind of vignettes of our major characters on the galactic stage. Um, Lost Stars very, very briefly intersected with any of the major characters on the galactic stage with Leia and company.
Doesn't
Um,
doesn't the one doesn't the male lead in Lost Stars, does he have a drink with Dak at Hoth?
oh gosh, what was it? I mean, he gets drunk and like dragged back to his room by Mon Mothma.
That's right. That's right.
Um,
Yeah.
uh,
Sorry, I didn't mean to
yeah.
cut you off.
Oh, Thane Kyrell, you sad, sad boy. Uh,
If anybody's
uh,
emo in Star Wars, it's that kid.
he appears briefly in Princess and the Scoundrel,
He
being
does.
sad.
He does.
um, but yeah, uh, and then we've also got in taking place in that same time period, we've got Alphabet Squadron trilogy,
Hmm.
which again focuses on these more minor characters, um, and the um, Battlefront 2 uh, story quest,
Yes, the story mode.
um,
Yep.
which also focuses not on the main characters, features vignettes of these major characters, but it's just snapshots of what they're doing during this year.
Yeah, the only one that really shows up in Battlefront 2 is Luke, and that's for about 30 minutes.
Uh, I mean, Luke is there for a bit with the Pilio bit.
Yeah,
Leia's there for a bit with the Battle of Naboo.
that's right.
Um, and Han's there for a bit with everything on Takodana,
And
and
then
Lando's there for a bit, I think, on Celeste.
yeah, because that's when
Um,
we meet him in Shriv.
yes.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I mean, so we know obviously that all of these characters were around in this time.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
but I think this is the first thing that's really focusing on the main original trilogy cast
Oh,
going into
the
this
comic
year,
series. Yeah.
which is amazing.
Hmm.
Um, but like we have seen the Battle of Jakku from so many different perspectives,
Yeah, but we've only
which is
caught
so interesting.
glimpses of it though.
That's exactly because it's a huge battle.
Yeah.
And I think the comic is going to explain more of this. It seems like it is from the preview of issue 2,
Yeah.
talking about how the Imperial Remnant is organizing itself, how these different warlords within the Empire are coming together, working together, sometimes fighting each other. Um, And we see that across everything that takes place in this era.
Hmm.
In the Squadrons video game, when you're playing the Imperial side of the
Yep.
story, um, at one point you are stealing from other Imperials
Hmm.
because well, we're the true inheritors of the Empire.
Yeah.
They're pretenders. They just think that they have the right to call themselves the Empire still. Um, as collapsing empires love to do.
It's really interesting to see all of the infighting in the Imperial Remnant.
Yes. It's I
Because
think it's interesting comparing it to the infighting in the rebellion
yeah.
before that. Because like yeah, there was a lot of tension between like Saw's partisans and Mothma's um alliance,
Hmm.
or as in we see in Andor, like between
Yeah.
different other factions. Uh, but like they don't come into open hostilities with each other.
No.
They're not killing each other over it. They're just not working with each other over it.
Hmm. Yeah. That
Whereas
is
the
true.
Empire are actively fighting themselves
Yeah.
in this last year of the war.
I mean, they are literally just shooting themselves in the foot throughout this last year of the war, which ultimately does set up their defeat.
Yeah.
Um,
Because even at the Battle of Jakku, they are not 100% secure on who their
yeah.
leadership is. Gallius Rax is hypothetically in charge, but basically everyone's just following Sloane's orders, or
Hmm.
basically everyone's just, yeah.
Well, they're following Sloane's orders, but Sloane's following Gallius Rax's orders.
But she's also got her own
Yeah.
agenda going on, and then you've got Hux thrown into the mix, and then you've
Hmm.
got um
We have.
Cinder was its whole own thing. We haven't even mentioned Cinder
Oh,
yet.
we're gonna do a deep dive into Cinder. We are gonna do a deep dive into
Let's
Cinder.
talk Cinder, because based on the preview of the second issue, it looks like that's what we're going to be getting into pretty soon.
Yes. So Operation Cinder was a contingency plan after, in case of the death of the Emperor as well as the destruction of the Death Star. It's a retaliation plan that the Empire had, where they were pretty much going to glass planets, essentially, making
Uh,
them uninhabitable.
Glass, soak in mud,
Yeah,
drown,
with
basically
fire.
however they could make the planet
Yes.
inhospitable.
Yeah, like in my opinion, I'm pretty sure like a few of those satellites were targeting like polar ice caps and stuff like
Oh,
that to
yeah.
like cause
I think
flooding.
they explained that more in the Alphabet Squadron trilogy,
Yeah,
where they talk about how they would use the planet's natural processes against itself.
yeah.
So a planet like, to use the very first thing that we see in the Alphabet Squadron trilogy as the examples, Necronus, that
Hmm.
has these silty, dusty, regions, whipping all of that up into a planet-wide sandstorm is going to do a pretty good job of destroying the planet,
Hmm.
without requiring the crazy amount of infrastructure that is the Death Star.
Yeah, that is true.
And I guess the question on every, that every rebel has is like, why are they doing this? Because a lot of these planets are still loyal to the Empire. They're doing this to Naboo. That's the planet where the Emperor was from.
Yeah,
Um, and I think you don't really get an answer for why they're doing it um, in Battlefront 2, which features it very heavily.
yeah,
Uh, I think the closest you get to an answer is in Alphabet. I think it's ITO who says basically the Emperor was just a spiteful, cruel guy.
yeah,
And he was like, if I'm going down, I'm taking the galaxy with me.
yeah, yeah. Because he ultimately thought that he had everything in the bag, and he truly didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even, and I mean, you know, people hem and haw, I guess understandably, very understandably actually, about like, oh, well, he came back, so like, how bad was it? But I mean, it's very clear in Rise of Skywalker, he did not come back as he wanted. He messed
No.
up. He wasn't ready.
Yeah.
Um, he was planning to have the whole resources of the Empire for a few more years at least to get his immortality plan locked in.
Hmm. So, so I want to ask you. Well, I kind of want to compare Operation Cinder to something that we saw in Legends,
Uh,
especially like in the New Jedi Order, and that was when the Yuzhan Vong would actually, take over a planet's ecosystem and slowly kill
that
that
is
ecosystem.
that is actually a really apt comparison, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, because like the Empire is going to find a way. Like if they lost, everybody's going to lose, and
the
that's
Empire refused to accept that it could lose
hmm,
with
sounds like current events.
anything other than total mutually assured destruction.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, so yeah, they absolutely they were just like, we're going to use the planet against itself.
And I find it interesting to see Operation Cinder from like various points of view because we do get it in Battlefront 2, we get it in Alphabet Squadron, but then we don't really necessarily get this from we don't see it, but we hear about it, and that's from Migs Mayfeld in
Yeah,
Mandalorian.
and I think that that was such an interesting thing, and also just all the different every it seems like every planet that got cindered was a very different plan, a very different
Hmm.
experience.
Yeah.
Sometimes they had boots on the ground, like
Hmm.
causing as much destruction as possible before actually destroying the planet.
Hmm.
Sometimes they were just up in space, blasting the planet into oblivion. Sometimes they had to have ships in the atmosphere doing things.
Hmm.
Um, yeah,
Well, it also kind of leads us to Adelhard. Is that his name?
yes.
Adelhard? Yeah.
Uh,
In
Moff
yeah,
Adelhard of the Iron Blockade in the Anoat
because
sector.
he literally gassed a planet.
Yeah, and I don't even know if that wasn't even a Cinder thing. That
No,
was just him.
that was during the
Um,
war.
uh, we know from Alphabet that the Emperor kept like data on basically who in the Empire was willing to do
Oh yeah.
whatever. Um, which is how he made his decisions for who got the droid emperors that ordered Cinder.
Yeah. Now I have a question here as
Yes.
well. Do you think if Thrawn hadn't disappeared, do you think Thrawn would have gotten one of the droids?
Um, based on his actions at Lothal and Adelon, I think he would have gotten one.
Yeah.
Um, I I don't like I really enjoy Thrawn. I think Thrawn is a very interesting character. He is ultimately not a good guy. Uh, so
What makes you say that?
I do think um he would have like gone through with Cinder, at least, the first Cinder. I don't think he would have done a Shadow Wing second Cinder slowly burning his way across the outer rim of the galaxy
Yeah.
because that wasn't why he wasn't like eternally loyal to the Empire.
No. He
He
was
would
using the
follow his
Empire.
orders,
Yeah.
but honestly, if he saw the Empire as it was in that last year, he would not be happy.
I think he'd go back to the Chiss Ascendancy. He'd be
I
like, my
I
exile's
I
over.
think he could. I think he might have cut and run if that were
Yeah.
happening
Yeah.
because he joined up with the Empire because it was the strongest game in town.
Hmm.
Um,
Because he thought the Republic would still be around at that point, too.
yeah, and um, as soon as the Emperor was dead,
Oh, Thrawn would have cut tail and ran.
The chicken's head is cut off.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Um,
that's right.
yeah, because he so much of his loyalty to the Empire was personal loyalty to the Emperor and to Vader.
Yeah, and that's why it's going to be interesting to see like where they go with Thrawn post Return of the Jedi.
Right,
Now that
because
he's
like
back.
at that point, he knows that he's not going to be accepted by the New Republic.
Yeah,
That's not an option for him. Um, he could be in this position where, like, as kind of the big fish, he could rope what's left of the Empire together and, especially with the Republic demilitarized,
yeah.
uh, get some stuff done. But I don't know. We'll have to wait and see.
So let's go back to Adelhard or Adelhard, however you want to pronounce his name. For the viewers out there, however you want
For
to
the
pronounce
viewers out
it.
there.
Yeah. Do you think he survives this whole ordeal, or do you think he goes down at Jakku?
I do not know. I never played the game that he's from,
And
Uprising,
that's right.
which is now effectively lost media because it is unplayable now.
It is. It is.
Um, I don't know the story of it. All I know is that he is in it, that he locked down the Anuit sector. Um, I guess we know from Battlefront 2 that at some point people are getting back into the Anuit sector because uh, part of that story takes place on Bespin,
Yeah.
which is in the Anuit sector.
And I
Um,
believe Akiva's in that sector too.
I don't know if Akiva is. I think
Let me take a look. Let me take a look. Hold on.
um,
All right. Let's see here.
yeah, it doesn't
Uh
say that it's in the Anuit sector.
no. No, Hoth's in that sector though.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Hoth, Bespin, Anuet, Ione, Ison. Yeah, yep. Nope. So yeah. So actually, let's take a look at Ubrick Adelhard real quick, since we're going to be spending a lot of time with him during this time. He was the governor of the Anahuat sector during the Galactic Civil War. Now, keep in mind, so this is actually going to be a spoiler the um, for the comic that just came out this week.
But is it a spoiler if it's something that's come before? You know, it's like
Yeah, okay, okay. He was promoted to governor by Sheev Palpatine. Or no, by Vader. By Vader. Uh,
Berman Khan is there. Sorry.
no, no, you're good. It's by Vader. Vader, he's appointed governor of the Anahuat sector by Vader, especially after he pretty much gasses an entire planet. Um, during the Galactic Civil War. And here, when we see him in Insurgency Rising, it's called the Battle of Jakku, Insurgency Rising, in issue number 1, he has a little bit of a think tank with him as well, including a dude that looks really badass, Commander or Bragg.
I'm not 100%
Yeah,
sure.
who's a purge trooper, which that is awesome. So I'm really hoping Luke goes up against this guy at some point, because that would be pretty epic. Um, so he pretty much is trying to perpetuate the lie that the Empire is still thriving, that they're still strong, that Vader and the Emperor are not dead. And he's trying to keep that going because he knows that if the truth comes out, the Empire is definitely going to splinter more than splinter more than it has already. So he's pretty much telling all the people in his fleet, like, hey, the Emperor's not dead, Vader's not dead, Death Star did not blow up. And like at this point you're like, we get it. we we get it.
Yeah.
Like, but here's the
I
truth. Yeah.
I think it's very interesting. We'll get back to Adelhard and the Anowet sector in a sec, but I do think
Yes.
it's
Yeah.
interesting how different leaders like reacted to the Emperor's death.
Mhm.
Coruscant itself immediately falls into chaos.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean,
uh,
yeah. That's the
you
first
know,
part of the Aftermath book.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um, I just think it's very interesting.
Um,
One of the planets in the Anowet sector is Burnin Khan, which is the planet where Miggs Mayfeld um,
that's true.
was there for Cinder.
Yeah.
Damn. Are
That's
we going to see a Mandoverse character in the comics?
I would love it if we got him
I think he
in
would be
that.
like the second Mandoverse original character to show up in the comics outside of the Mandalorian adaptation.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, he would. Um yeah. I think it would be really interesting to see
Oh
it
no,
because they
third.
oh, who's the second? Cobb?
No, because Cobb wasn't a Mandoverse original.
That's right, he was Aftermath.
Uh, um, why am I spacing on her name? The
Um
Twi'lek woman who runs Sanctuary.
oh god. Jennifer Lewis's character. Or no, not Jennifer
Oh
Lewis.
my gosh, why am I spacing?
Yeah. No, that runs Sanctuary.
Garsa Fwip.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Garsa
Sorry.
Fwip appeared in the Max Rebo one shot.
That's right. She is in the Max Rebo one shot. Yeah, I think it would be interesting because you could definitely do an entire story from his perspective.
Absolute. And honestly, based on how
Hey, John.
John, today we are talking about the build up to the Battle of Jakku, the year after the Battle of Endor.
Yeah,
Um, yeah. Like the first issue kind of it had a few different characters that it kind of bounced between. I can
yeah,
totally see one of like the extra characters that it brings in to kind of focus on for a bit being Migs.
yeah,
Um, because that would be just very interesting.
yeah. I will say this, because I do want to talk a little bit about this first issue, and then we can dive into like Alphabet Squadron, Aftermath, Lost
Yeah,
Stars, all that fun stuff. Um, there is a great scene that they adapt from Princess and the Scoundrel,
yes,
and that is Leia um stopping by Vader's grave, essentially. And she's so angry at Vader for everything that he did and that she can't forgive him.
justifiably.
Oh yeah. And then like her and Luke have this conversation the day after, and that was actually in Princess and the Scoundrel too. Um and Luke says, "Yeah, I know that you went to visit Vader," and she goes, "Did you follow me?" And he said, "No, your anger like radiated pretty good. Like I put two and two together."
Yeah,
Um, yeah. So I just found it was really interesting that Alex Segura actually like adapted those two scenes from Princess and the Scoundrel. Both scenes written beautifully by Beth Revis, by the way, like absolutely beautifully written. Um, and Alex wrote them tremendously as well in this first issue. So
absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah.
still would have been cool to see Ewok Bachelor Party, but you know. Oh no, that's a couple of days after. Never mind.
Yeah.
Um, all right. So, do we want to talk about Aftermath? Do we want to talk about Lost Stars?
Um, Aftermath would be hard for me to talk about again because I have not read it in so long.
Okay. Um,
Lost Stars, I have also not read in a bit, but I could talk about it more. Because uh, Lost Stars, of course, gave us kind of a view into one of the Star Destroyers crashing into the
mhm.
surface of Jakku.
And it wasn't just one Star Destroyer, it was like
Yeah.
multiple Star Destroyers.
But I mean, we were inside of one of them
Yeah,
as it was
yeah, yeah.
crashing.
Yeah. God,
Um,
that's such a great scene.
yeah. Lost Stars is, of course, this love story told out between two kids who grew up on the same planet, who end up on opposite sides of the Galactic Civil War. Uh, Thane Kyrell and Sienna Ree. Um, and they are on opposite sides of the war until the bitter end. Sienna Ree conveniently not present, not like actively working for the Empire during Cinder, so she did not participate in that.
Yeah.
But everything else she was part of. So they were both at Yavin, they were both at Hoth, they were both at Endor. Um, she was presumed dead at Endor.
Mhm.
He went into mourning for her. Um, finds out that she's alive when he's infiltrating her Star Destroyer at Jakku.
Mhm.
Um, and then got her out of the crashing Star Destroyer. And it's a bittersweet ending because, yeah, she's alive. Yeah, they're both alive, but she was a officer of the Empire till the bitter end.
Mhm. So,
Not gonna go great for her in court.
no, especially because she's in jail by the end of the book.
Yes.
Yeah. Um, which
Um,
I will say this, I want that follow-up story of the interrogation.
Especially because we now know about the the amnesty program, the
Yeah.
reconciliation project. There's like multiple different systems that we know the New Republic puts in place to like deal with these ex Imperials.
I mean, I'd love to
Um,
see them in Mando then, or any New Republic thing.
I
So,
I think because I know so Mando introduced the amnesty program,
yeah.
which seems to me like it's more geared towards like not high ranking officers.
Mm,
I feel like the high ranking officers would go through something different, which to me feels like it would be the other one, the one that Will Lark puts in place at the end of Alphabet.
oh, yeah. Yeah. The one that you would think, like, Jack Black's character from Mando probably went through.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Um, yeah, it's I don't know, it's a whole. I am curious to see more of that stuff.
Mhm,
Um, everyone's champing at the bit for more of Thane and Sienna, which
mhm.
same. Um,
They're great characters.
they're such interesting characters. But yeah, that book doesn't focus as much on the year between.
Mhm.
Um, Mostly because I think it's kind of the same reason why we can get through this whole year in 12 issues versus in 50,
Yeah.
because things start to slow down. Like, yes, the war is still ongoing. The entirety of the game Squadrons takes place in this time.
Mhm.
There's still battles happening, but there aren't like, but the New Republic has won. It's just a matter of finishing the job.
Mhm.
The Empire does not recover
Nope.
from the loss at Endor. Um, so during that last year, Sienna is busy recovering from getting exploded.
Yes.
And
She did
Thane,
get exploded.
And Thane is just participating in state building, which is what, a
Mhm.
lot of the former rebels suddenly have to do. They're suddenly
Mhm.
going from, okay, I'm patrolling the Outer Rim, I'm shooting down TIE fighters, whatever, to being like, I'm making sure shipping lanes are secure
Yeah.
between member planets and um, helping, rebuild after this terrible war that's lasted for 25 years.
Yeah. I also want to pose this question real quick because this is something that we have seen in Legends, but this is something that I really want to see in canon. Do you think in this 12 issue series, or do you think we might get a different series about this? Will we finally see the liberation of Coruscant?
I can see having something about the liberation of Coruscant in this series. Um, Dexter Jetster should be there. Anyway, um, the veteran from
Such a
Return of
great.
the Jedi, Fakpov.
Oh,
Um,
I loved Dexter Jetster.
Dexter Jetster was helping at the liberation of Coruscant.
I'm sure
Um,
he was.
because yeah, we see again like vignettes of what
Hmm.
happens on Coruscant. We see a little bit of like the very uppermost levels of what
Hmm.
happens on Coruscant. We see a little bit of the very lowermost levels with Dexter Jetster helping get people to safety.
Yeah.
Um, and we see some of the like political machinations that are happening around Coruscant with everything in Victory's Price,
Hmm.
finding the Emperor's cache of information on every Imperial asset.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, that and Masameda pretty much becomes a prisoner to
right,
the
he went
Imperial
from
remnant.
he started out by trying to be like, yeah, I'm basically the Emperor now. And then immediately the Imperial remnant is like, actually, you're our puppet now.
You do what we say.
You do what
That's
we
right.
say.
Because the ISB was running Coruscant at that point.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which hopefully they give us a Sard in this as well. Because I think
God,
she would be a.
there's so many characters in this era. And it's so interesting because like a lot of the characters in this era kind of come from the background of other characters.
Hmm.
Um, like Ray Sloan, not the
Excuse me.
highest echelon of of Imperial leadership
No, no.
until suddenly the um, suddenly most of the upper leadership of the Empire is destroyed in a single explosion over
Yeah.
Endor, over
Yeah.
the forest moon.
So, John, to answer your question, we're not going to get Thrawn in this comic because Thrawn is still in exile because Mando's 6 years after. Well, it would be
Thrawn is
5 years after Jakku.
fully stuck in another
Yeah,
galaxy.
yeah, yeah. So Thrawn is still hanging out with Night
Yeah.
Sisters um, on
Thrawn's
Perita.
hanging out with a bunch of reanimated corpses at this time.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. So he has that going on for him. Um, but I could see we could get his his buddy, the one that like kept covering for him. Oh God, what was
Pelion.
it? Pelion. Yeah, yeah, Pelion.
I
We
can see
could see him in
Pelion
this.
coming up in this because they need
Yeah,
to link him more into things.
yeah, exactly.
In canon, obviously, he was in the old EU,
Yeah, yeah.
long before.
Um,
But he's barely showed up in canon, so this
yeah,
would be a good opportunity to start slotting him in more.
yeah,
But actually, it seems that if he's in there, then there are like multiple Thrawn associates taking command in this era because Adelhard is apparently one of Thrawn's former flock.
yeah. Yeah, he was, because they talk about it in Insurgency Rising.
Um, I think I messaged like all of my Thrawn friends, like unexpected Thrawn tent in new comic.
Yes.
um, yeah, I just think it's gonna be interesting how they bring in the Imperial infighting in this comic. Because especially with how locked down Adelhard is making his sector, I can see him very quickly coming into like open conflict with other pieces of the Imperial Remnant. I actually don't know if he's going to affiliate himself as much with Rax and his
Mhm.
coalition.
Yeah, that's true.
He seems like he's going to do his own thing, which
Yes.
could mean that he keeps himself more out of the infighting, and it could also mean that he dooms himself by not working well with teammates.
He does not play well with
The
others.
Empire is not good at sharing. That's basically what it comes down to.
Yeah. So for those of you wondering why Jakku was so important,
Yes.
um, I'm also looking at the StarWars.com website right now because I searched Jakku. Um, and it says here, according to StarWars.com, and we do get some of this in canon, especially like in Aftermath and everything. It says during the final years of the Galactic Civil War, Jakku was a site of a secret Imperial research base, and
Yes.
served as a jumping-off point for warships heading into the unknown regions. The Empire made a last stand above the frontier planet, leading to a pitched battle between Rebel and Imperial fleets. So we did have Imperial exploration of the unknown
Yes.
regions. Uh,
Because uh, Jakku is like the last planet before you hit the unknown region.
yeah,
It is
similar to
kind of
okay,
alone in the Galactic West, if you
yeah,
will,
it really is.
before you hit the unknown regions.
Yeah,
It's very isolated. It's very backwater. Um, the only reason why the Empire would go there is because it makes a good staging ground for
hmm
plunging into the unknown.
well, that
Um,
and it was going to be their last foothold in the galaxy as well. If
yes.
yeah,
Um, yeah, it's a very interesting place for them to have their last stand, but it also feels very Empire for them to be like, well, it has to be a planet that we don't even need to destroy it. It's already destroyed.
hmm I just find it interesting that you know the Emperor really took such an interest in this planet, especially with the research that they were doing, which we're still a little unclear on. Like they talk about it in Aftermath, um, but like yeah, we're still a little unclear on what they were researching.
Right.
Um,
I figure it's probably some way of being like, because he had the wayfinders to get to Exegol and such.
yeah,
He was probably trying to find some way of like, okay, how can we navigate unknown regions without having to like
yeah.
have this wayfinder for every single thing?
So
Um,
so John,
because
yes, that is where he
yeah,
met. Yeah,
it's because I think like Necromancer in the Final Order was more so one like what was going on Exegol.
yeah.
Um, and like obviously there's some level of communication at least in these early days, but um, because we once Sloane and the Imperial Remnant go into the unknown regions, it is a black box for what happens after that until we
Yeah,
get the First Order.
that is true.
Um, even someone who works very closely with the Sith, um, Ochi of Bestoon, does not know what the hell is going on.
hmm
He just gets his orders and follows them.
hmm
Which honestly seems to be true for a lot of the people who end up founding the First Order and a
Yeah.
lot of the Imperial Remnant people. Like they just kind of get orders and follow them.
Mhm.
Um, but so we don't know what happens out there, and I don't think that we're going to find out any of it in this comic series.
Oh, no, no, no. They're gonna
Um,
set that up for a later story.
I have my own personal thoughts about what I think happens in the unknown regions, and whenever I share them, it makes my Chiss Ascendancy fan friends get mad. Um, Look, all I'm saying is there is a big technologically advanced but low on manpower government out there in the unknown regions. The Emperor knew where it was.
Mhm.
They make a great big juicy target to be the first ones to be ground into fuel for the First Order. Anyway,
I really feel that the Chiss Ascendancy went down. Like, I
I
feel yeah.
I don't whether it was the Grisks or Sloane and her remnant,
Mhm.
I don't think that the ascendancy is long for this galaxy.
Oh, no.
Um, I I played with I think this is complete tangent, but I do think it would be interesting if Sloane shows up, says, "Hey, Chiss Ascendancy, we're gonna totally help you with this." Gets the Chiss Ascendancy into a war that they can barely survive, and then immediately turns around on the weakened Ascendancy and is like, "Cool, now you're gonna repay us for our help.
Mhm.
Can you give us all of that, all of your manpower forever?"
Yeah. Don't give Disney ideas. We're not giving Disney any ideas. It's just
They're not gonna make a movie about the Chiss Ascendancy. Um,
as cool as that would be.
as cool as that would be. Um, Timothy Zahn, if you're listening, um,
Give us more books. Um, yeah. So back to Jakku,
back to Jakku. We,
which everybody wants
like
to
I
know.
said, we see a lot of vignettes of what happens on Jakku. We see um, Star Destroyers crashing. Uh, we see Harrison Dula barely managing to keep things together.
Hmm.
We see pilots going down, crashing into the planet. We see people getting into firefights on the planet,
Yeah.
crawling out of their crashed ships because they're just so because the Empire is desperate to keep fighting because this is literally a fight for the life of the Empire, which they know what's going to happen to them as soon as the Empire is gone.
Yeah. And it's
They
a
know that
long
they
fight.
are. It is a long fight. It is a rough fight. Um, I mean, we see in The Force Awakens, the entire planet is littered with ruins from this.
Hmm. And not just Imperial ships, but Rebel ships as well.
Not just Imperial ships. Yeah.
Yeah. It's
Um,
crazy.
yeah.
And then the amount of crashed X-wings and TIE fighters and
X-wings and like Ray's X-wing pilot helmet had to come from somewhere.
she's living in a walker.
She's living it. They were having full-on ground battles it was a long fight, a terrible fight. I'm
Hmm.
so excited to see it in comic format. Because I think better than a lot of forms of media,
Hmm.
comics are great at telling like vignettes of stories around a whole thing. So we
Yes.
can see like, maybe we're getting the main story about like what Luke and Leia and Han and Lando are doing.
Hmm.
And then we get just like a bit of Thane and Sienna in the Star Destroyer as it's crashing to like put where in the timeline this is happening.
Yeah.
We get a
I
bit
like that.
of Harrison Dula fighting to keep control of her ship. We get a bit of Ray Sloan politicking,
Yeah.
um, making her moves.
Yeah. It's wild like what we're gonna be seeing coming up here. Um especially like I really feel like we're gonna we're finally gonna see Gallius Rax. I think we're finally gonna see Gallius Rax in comic form,
Yeah.
which is awesome. And I believe we're also gonna see Ray Sloan.
I mean, yeah, so we see her in the preview. So I wouldn't say
Yeah,
that that's a spoiler because it's
yeah,
in officially released material.
yeah.
Um she is such an interesting character.
She really is. She really is.
Um she Ray Sloan is interesting because she is one of very few characters to have come from the books or video games, but still have a Lego minifigure of her.
She does have a Lego minifigure of her.
Um,
She does.
Fascinating. Yeah.
Why? What set is she with?
The TIE bomber.
That's right. That's right. She is with the TIE bomber. Yeah. John
Um,
says, "Please give me a billion references to related events. This would be the most ambitious crossover in Star Wars."
exactly. That's what the Battle of Jakku is. It is the crossover of everything that happened in. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if we get some things. The Ewok series looks like it's going to be bringing in some other characters who were around
Mhm,
in this era. I wouldn't be surprised if they end up crossing into the Battle of Jakku. If we see like, okay, what are Zuckuss and 4LOM doing?
mhm.
What's I mean we know what Boba Fett was doing. He was getting digested. Um what's
Too soon, Leah. Too soon.
what what's Bosk doing? Is he there? Is he doing a contract
Uh,
on Jakku?
I bel yes, he and Embo. Embo is definitely there because Embo's in
Yeah,
Aftermath. Yeah,
yeah.
he's in.
I know
Yeah,
Embo was. I just couldn't remember if Bosk was.
I think he
Um,
is.
uh, John brought up Afra and Valance. You know, are they doing anything around this time?
I could see
I hope
Afra.
Valance is getting some much needed rest. But
Yeah, dude needs to chill.
um,
But I could see Afra trying to, especially like with the artifacts and stuff, like from that battle. Like I could see her like
especially,
trying to make a profit.
I can see Magna dragging her into being like, "Come on, the fate of the galaxy is at stake," and Afra's like, "Can I steal things while we're there?" Uh,
Shh, but don't tell anybody.
yeah.
Yeah,
Um, yeah,
Valance.
I can see them, having a
Well, this is also where
bits
we
and
can get
pieces of these other characters.
add some steamy makeout sessions and we're gold. Yeah, okay. Um, I could also see them bringing in Iden Versio because she is at Battle of Jakku in
Yeah.
Battlefront 2. And then we could who was her who was the guy that she ended up with? Wasn't Hask. Hask was the bad guy. Um
Oh wait, are we talking about Aiden's husband,
yes.
Delmico?
Yeah. I could see him showing up too.
Oh
Um
yeah,
and th- and then give me Shriv too because Shriv is just awesome.
we always need more Duros.
We do. We do. Um Hell, you could put Cad Bane in there with the rest of the bounty hunters that are on Jakku at that time too.
Yeah,
Like you can do whatever. What I would love. Oh my god. Okay, I'm just gonna throw this out here right now.
throw it.
Well, I do love John, the Wexleys and Mr. Bones. Well, no, they're there because they're in Aftermath.
They're definitely there.
Yeah, yeah. But the one that I'm gonna throw out is Captain Rex because he did survive Endor, and the Bad Batch with Omega.
Why did I just have a horrible thought? Rex's last stand.
I
Why did I
mean,
think that? But that would be such an interesting. like they're not going to kill off Rex in a comic, but mm,
No, but how badass would that be?
how badass would that be?
Because let's face it, we have gotten like just in comics in general, we have gotten a lot of amazing last stands with characters.
Yeah, yeah.
Like if they did Rex, I as much as it would break my heart to see that, it would be such an earned moment though as a Captain Rex fan. Just him going out just on that high, you know? Um if any of them do go down, it's Wrecker. Wrecker's going to go down on Jakku.
No, yeah. I mean, he
Yeah.
would, but
Yeah. But he'd be taking out a bunch of people too. The Bad Batch would have like a Rogue One moment.
oh my god.
Yeah. But
Wrecker is kind of Baze Malbus flavored if you squint.
he is, he
Um,
is. And Hunter is kind of like the Chirrut Imwe, Cassian Andor type character.
yeah. I
Stop
can't
giving
think
me
too much about.
and
They're not going to kill off the bat. They're not going to kill the Bad Batch in a
no, no,
comic,
no, no,
but
no.
wow, would that be a power move if they did?
It would be insane. It would be
Oh,
absolutely insane. But you know what? I'd be here for it because it's something that, like I said, it would just be well earned. Even though I'd want to see him go down like in some form of television or movie, but you know,
it
uh,
would be intensely sad and also intensely narratively perfect.
it would. Now, if they don't show up, like you could have Omega show up in this miniseries
Yes.
as well.
I
Um,
mean, again, like was said, this would be the place to have like these crossovers.
oh yeah.
Bring in Omega, bring in the Lardy sisters, bring
Mhm.
in,
Well,
um,
you could bring
yeah,
Poe's parents back in too
yeah.
because
I mean,
they're
Cass and why am I suddenly spacing on her name?
she was the A-wing pilot. God, I wish I had that first Poe Dameron trade or oh no, uh oh God, what
Yeah,
the
my brain is unfortunately still Sharabe.
yeah,
My brain is unfortunately still super stuck in High Republic mode.
it's fine.
But yeah, Cass and Sharabe, they're. I would be surprised if they don't show up.
Hmm.
Um,
Asajj and Quinlan.
I
I mean,
feel like they're unlikely to use this to confirm more like Jedi survivals until this
yeah,
period. I think the only Jedi we'll be seeing will be Luke,
yeah,
and
and
Leia, but
Leia.
that's
Yeah,
complicated.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, her relationship to Jedihood is complicated.
Yeah, I couldn't see them. If they do bring in Ventress, she's probably going to be with bounty hunters. I can't see her like being in the main battle, like wielding a lightsaber. Like I just can't see that.
Right.
As cool as that would be. Trying to think of what else. So yeah, there's a lot that happens in this year that we're getting to, and that we're going to be seeing. Um, let's talk Alphabet Squadron because I know how much you're chomping at the bit to talk about our favorite knuckleheads.
What a crew.
They are unique.
They um will we see them in this? I hope we get at least like a moment of seeing them in this whole year. Because this is their year. Because they don't become a thing until the end of Cinder.
Yeah,
But Cinder is pretty much right after Endor. It
yeah,
starts up.
it's a few months too. Like it's not
Yes,
like
Cinder is a long process, and then there's the second Cinder thing, which comes later.
yeah,
Um, but Alphabet was kicking ass and taking names across the galaxy.
Yeah,
literally from the deep core to the outer rim.
yeah. And yes, John, they are a ragtag group of pilots that pretty much fly all alphabetical ships in the Rebellion,
Yes, there's
except
an
for the
A-wing
E-Wing.
pilot. There's an A-wing pilot, Will Lark. There's a
Hmm.
B-wing pilot, Chasna Chaddock, my beloved.
She's awesome.
There is a U-wing pilot, Kairos. There is a X-wing pilot, Erica Quell, also my beloved. And there is a Y-wing
Former Empire.
pilot, Nath Tenzent,
I love Nath
my
so
becomplicated. Um, I
much.
love them all. I love them all so much. I love Will. I love Kairos. I love uh, Chas. I love
Mhm.
Erica. Nath is also there. I
I
love
will
Nath. I
I will
love
say
Nath.
this. I will say this. Nath really grew on me in Shadowfall, especially
Yes.
when he was helping Will out with
I
the
think the
planetary defense.
thing, I think this is very clear throughout all of the books. Erica Quell, love her to death. Love her to death. She's not a good leader.
No.
I am very glad that Will is the one who ends up becoming a senator.
Oh, yeah. Erica would not be a good senator at
I'm
all.
very I'm very glad that Erica ends up getting to settle down, be happy.
Mhm.
So ditto for Chas. Chas needed a break.
Yep.
So her getting to have like actual peace for the first time in her life,
Yeah.
my whole heart. Um, Erica and Chas may be one of my favorite couples in Star Wars.
Yeah.
They're really good.
Mhm.
Um, I do firmly believe in my heart that Will Lark and Luke Skywalker dated at least for a little bit after the war. This is neither here nor there, but I know it in my heart.
I mean, that would be fun.
Because look, we know that Will knows who Luke is. One, we know that
Mhm.
Will was there on Endor, so like he saw Luke in person on Endor after the battle. I'm
Mhm.
just saying they've met. They know each other.
Yeah.
Anyway, um, Will Lark, what a guy. Um,
Will Lark is an amazing character.
Kairos. I wish that we could all be like Kairos and shed our skin and run off into the distance, never to be seen again.
Mhm.
Uh, um, Luke's sexuality is complicated. Um,
Luke's, yeah.
uh, Luke definitely focuses a lot on how pretty a guy's hair is and how good he smells. Um,
Him and uh him and Elzar definitely would have been a thing.
that's a lot to process. I'm moving on. Now
And I
I'm thinking
only
about
say
how
that because of their interaction.
now I'm thinking about how Ben Solo knows who Elzar Mann was.
Hey, why not, right?
But to elaborate a little bit more, um, Luke Skywalker in the short story Luke on the Bright Side by Sam Maggs, um, author of Star Wars Jedi Battle Scars, um, has a very has to cuddle for warmth with a sergeant in the rebellion on Hoth after they
Mhm.
get stuck in a cave in together. And Luke can't stop thinking about how pretty this guy's hair is and how nice he smells, which could mean nothing.
True. True.
Um, all I'm saying is that if it does mean something, then Luke and Anakin both have a thing for people from Naboo. Um,
Too true.
Too true. But yeah, so it's Alphabet's great. I love Alphabet.
Alphabet Squadron is
I'm due for another reread of Alphabet Squadron, at least the first book, because the first book is so good.
it is. It really is. It really is.
But it's also peak Freed Star Wars, which is wow, this is so well written. I need to take a long bath after reading this one.
So I will say this: Alexander Freed is one of the best Star Wars writers out there.
Yeah,
Between this, the Rogue One
the
novelization,
Rogue One novelization.
and Battlefront Twilight Company, um, yeah, dude knows how to write military stories so well. Uh,
He excels at writing people who are doomed, know that they are doomed, and yet they still have to persist,
mm-hmm,
which is basically the entire story of the rebellion until the war ends.
mm-hmm. But
Um,
he does give some characters happy endings, like in
yes,
Alphabet Squadron.
I think the endings that he gave all of the main characters in Alpha Squadron is like the best endings they could have realistically hoped for.
Yes.
Chas and Erica get peace and a normal life. Will gets to simultaneously still be part of home, but out in the galaxy
Mm-hmm.
without a blaster pointed at his head all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Naf gets ultimate freedom in the form of being a pirate lord. Um, and Kairos sheds her skin and runs into the distance, never to be seen again. And for her, that is the best possible ending.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, Kairos pretty much pulls a Comac Vitus, just running off. Um,
Honestly, yeah. She,
yeah,
she walked so Comac could run.
literally. Um, yeah. So I mean, and this is what makes me excited for his Reign of the Empire novel,
Yeah.
which is coming out because I. I mean, guy also really knows how to write a political drama too. Like,
hmm
um, yeah.
Everything that he did um with Hera in Alphabet,
Hmm.
everything that he did with the bureaucracy of the New Republic,
Hmm.
um, as it went from the rebellion to the New Republic, as they're like just setting up a new government.
Hmm.
Fantastic, fantastic.
Hmm.
Um, and this is something that I'm really glad that it carried over into the live action with
Hmm.
her, which is Hera kind of being like, I've literally my whole life been just a warrior, just a soldier, just a fighter. And like I'm a great leader on the battlefield.
Hmm.
I was not ready for the war to end. I was not ready to be a general for a government.
Hmm. Yeah, and at that point, technically, there's another war that they're doing, and that's the war of politics.
Exactly. Because, like, you know, obviously, yes, the Galactic Civil War ends almost immediately after. And we see this from Aftermath. We see this from Book of Boba Fett. We see this from Last Shot by Daniel
Yeah,
Jose Older.
great novel.
Immediately, like, the New Republic has to reckon with, okay, the Empire completely stopped doing anything about like pirates and syndicates in the last
Hmm.
year of the war.
Yeah.
Um, like yes, the Huts are basically gone, but like the Pikes on top of their game.
Hmm.
The Nikto have started setting up their own like
Hmm.
answer to the Huts. Um, the pirates are just all over the galaxy.
Yeah.
You know, prison planets have collapsed on themselves. Um, different planets are like starting their own things and refusing to join the New Republic.
Yeah.
Um, there's an entire section of the galaxy that is controlled only by pirates.
Yeah.
And the New Republic is just left with these problems immediately.
Yeah, it's pretty much like
And
a
like
huge middle finger from the Empire.
and like and I think part of it is that like the Empire knew the
Yeah.
New Republic is immediately going to demilitarize as soon as they're done with us.
Oh, yeah,
Like they
so
did.
why not?
And I think that was the right choice. I absolutely do not think they should have maintained a militarized society. That we're not getting into the politics of it as much.
Not no,
But
not yet.
like I don't think that the New Republic should have maintained a huge military.
Mhm.
I also know that that is kind of what the Empire and all of these like pirate and syndicate elements were banking on.
Oh, absolutely.
Because everything that we see immediately after this era is like this explosion of the criminal underworld.
Mhm.
Um, because like Empire's gone, New Republic is barely on its feet. Game time.
Well, you also see it in, you see it in Outlaws too. Like,
Yeah.
they're like,
Oh
the
yeah.
bricks are
This is
being
a
laid
thing
right
that
there.
started with Hoth. After
Yeah.
Hoth, the Empire was like, we're just gonna pay attention to the rebels for now.
Mhm.
Um, and it,
Yeah.
yeah.
It
I
blew up in
think
their faces.
honestly, I think if Outlaws were to get a sequel game, the best time for it would be right after the Battle of Jakku in this scramble to establish these new syndicate order
Oh, yeah.
after the because Crimson Dawn gone, Hutt's gone,
Mhm.
um, you know, new groups rising. Um,
I mean, Gorian Shard could be one of the characters that you could focus on in
hell
Outlaws
yes.
too. Yeah.
What happened? Where did he come from in the years between Jakku and Mando?
That and you also have the droid dread pirates too that were in Shadow of the Sith.
Yeah, the
Um,
droid Gatra are doing their whole
mhm.
thing.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many different routes that you can go, especially in this power vacuum, because that's what it was. It was a legit power vacuum until the New Republic, quote unquote, established control.
But again, as Aftermath established pretty uh, like very explicitly established, and other things since then have like covered it. They did not control the whole galaxy.
Nope,
They didn't control even the whole area that the Empire controlled.
no.
They controlled a lot of it, but
Hmm.
like there's still Mara Cavanya's pirate empire. There's
Hmm.
still what like the new separatist coalition or something that it's
Yeah,
called. Um, there's
there's
still whole planets that are just like we're just not a part of this. We're
there's
our own thing
also
right now.
whatever Maz was doing too, because Maz was still doing
Yeah.
piracy back then.
Um, I mean it very much seems like Navarro is like we're not really affiliated with the Republic right now.
Hmm.
They affiliate later when they need it, but like at first they're like, no, what's a Republic?
What?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um, it's just a very interesting time as things are getting like ironed out. But that's all
yeah.
after Jakku. Um, but it's just as interesting, which is why I think it would be really interesting if we had a post Jakku ongoings after this. You can
Hmm.
have Luke's new Jedi Academy that he's setting up.
Hmm.
Um, we can get back Vo and Hennix and all of that crew. We can have
I mean, you can do stories with Nora and Wedge. You could do stories with Sinjir and his partner.
Sinjir and Condor would be great.
Yeah. Um,
Um, yeah,
yeah, I mean, but that's the important thing. I know that we were going to talk about Jakku, and we have, but you also do have to look to the future past Jakku because
Right.
we have another 30-year gap that
And like
we have to
we
tell
have a
stories.
30-year gap, and the only stories that we have in that gap after Jakku are Last Shot,
Yeah.
Shadow of the Sith.
Mhm.
I
Phasma.
Bloodlines is before Shadow of the Sith.
Yeah. No.
Um,
No, it's after.
it's after, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Blood Shadow of the Sith, Bloodlines,
Phasma.
Phasma, and then just like the setup. And then after that, it's just the setup to Force Awakens, which is like Phasma,
Poe Dameron comic.
Poe Dameron, yeah, Poe Dameron comic. That's right. Poe Dameron Freefall is also in that 30 years.
Yeah. And then
You could have the Spice Runners of Kijimi be a big, have them like overtake the Ashiga clan in an Outlaws sequel. Anyway,
I'd love that. I would love that. Because you do need to set up the lawlessness that's in this
mhm.
power vacuum. Um yeah.
um, but yeah, like there's a 30-year gap here. That's
Mhm.
plenty for them to play with.
Oh,
Um, and I
absolutely.
know that some of it, especially the early part of it, is probably still kind of partitioned off because like they want to save that for the Mandalorian and stuff. But the
Mhm.
Mandalorian is ending soonish. We
Oh
have an
yeah,
ending in sight with the movie.
we do. We do.
Um,
That whole series will end with the Thrawn thing.
yes.
Yeah.
Um, and like, cool. I look forward to it. I like Big Blue. I'm excited for Big Blue to do his fighty thing. Um, but like, I'm also just curious, like, of these ongoing stories, because we don't get an episode of a show every week. We don't have
No.
22 episode seasons.
No.
Um,
And that's sad.
and that's why I like Young Jedi Adventures because it's a lot more episodes per season.
Mhm.
Um, they haven't announced when the next drop of Young Jedi Adventures is, but I know for a fact that there's more episodes coming.
Oh, it's coming. It's coming.
Um,
They got a hit.
because they've talked about like Raxlow coming back. They've talked about like whatever. I'm looking forward to whatever's coming.
Yeah. But
Um,
yeah, I mean, you do have to set aside the Mando stuff. Like you do have to
yeah,
keep that
but
there.
like you know, something's got to happen after Mando.
Mhm.
Something's got to happen because Mando's only covering those couple years.
Yeah. That
Um,
yeah.
I can see the next ongoing being either like the years between Jakku and Mando, the
Mhm.
years after Mando, where they kind of reference like, oh, remember that whole thing with the Imperial Remnant? That was crazy. Anyway, uh,
I mean, they could do both though. Like they could
they
do a
could do
lead
both,
up.
and they don't have to have the next run of ongoings all be like taking place at the same time like the last ones were.
No, give me a
Um,
resistance ongoing.
they could have there be like, yeah, there could be a Resistance ongoing, there could be a Luke's Jedi Academy ongoing where it's
Mhm.
after Mando, there could be a the training of Anakin Skywalker, kind of in the vein of that Padawan's Pride book,
Mhm.
which came out of nowhere. Um,
Best shadow drop they've ever done for
Came out
Star
of
Wars.
nowhere. I really enjoyed it. It was
It was
fun.
fun. It was a lot of
Um,
fun.
Unexpected High Republic content,
Yeah,
unexpected High Republic references.
it was a
Um,
fun book though.
it was a fun
Very
little
fun.
book.
And Brian Q. Miller wrote the hell out of that book.
It was a fun little book. If pod racing,
I mean,
spinning is a neat trick. It was great.
but I like that though. Like it was fun to see fun Anakin again before we
Anakin
got to the
before the worst of it.
yeah, exactly.
And that's
Um
that's the thing. Like, there's a 10-year void in there. That's another great gap for storytelling. Like, I understand them not wanting to tell stories after Rise of Skywalker. They are saving that for a big thing. I
oh yeah.
understand them not wanting to talk about between High Republic Phase 3 and Acolyte because they are saving that because they haven't gotten to the end of the High Republic yet.
Yeah.
Um, I understand them not wanting to do too much more before Phantom Menace because there's been a lot of things before Phantom Menace.
Hmm.
I get it. Um, so like
And
there's a lot of ways that I could be happy with whatever the next ongoings are. Basically, the only thing that would make me be like, I guess I don't think I'll be picking that one up is if they do another Darth Vader run because like Vader's great, very interesting guy. He has kind of been done to death, at least for now. Give him a
you
break.
had three massive runs with the character.
3 massive runs with the character. It, absolutely amazing stories, especially the
Yeah,
2017 run. Wow, the 2017 run was
that
good.
was the Charles Soule one.
That was Charles Soules.
Yeah.
That run was so
I
good.
mean, what Greg Pak just put down was incredible.
But like, and like we had black, white, and red Darth
Yeah.
Vader. We have. Can we give the guy a rest for a minute?
Well, you can because he did.
Right, but
Yeah.
they can go back and
I
be
don't
like,
want them to though.
that's the thing.
Yeah.
Because Vader, very interesting guy. He There's only so much you can do with him at this point.
I mean,
We know the major beats of his story. We know he got his lightsaber. We know, you know, his confrontations with Obi-Wan Kenobi. We know how he was with the Inquisitorius. We know him dealing with Cal Kestis, Sir Junda, etc. We know everything that happened, literally every moment of his life from the beginning of A New Hope until he dies.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Well, one thing that I would love to see because and you could do this during the gap between the Battle of Jakku and the sequel trilogy is give me the Sith Eternal. Like give me an
Give
ongoing
me the
series
Sith
about the
Eternal. Give me the
yeah.
Acolytes of the Beyond.
Yes.
That would be phenomenal.
Yeah, because it would be something that you could definitely like set up some different things and still make it feel like Star Wars, but then you can distance yourself from a lot of the stuff that we already know.
Right. Um, the Acolytes of the Beyond have their whole thing going on. What's their deal?
I
Um,
loved seeing them.
I
I thought
would
that was
love
so
to see
good.
more of them. Um, we have,
You have the Sith
I mean, like,
Eternal.
what are the Knights of Ren doing in this time?
That
They
and
had
then
their moment with Kira, but what are they doing now?
yeah,
Um, uh, that's actually a good point. Like, what if the Acolytes of the Beyond are older than we think? What if they're from, you know, what if they're an offshoot of the Sith acolytes of the High Republic and earlier?
that or they could also be like an offshoot of like the Sorcerers of Tund,
I love the Sorcerers of Tund.
or you
My
could
like my like if I could have any Star Wars thing, I would want like a Sorcerers of Tund focused story.
mm-hmm,
Nobody would pay for it, but wow, it would be fun.
I would I'd pay for it.
I like my Force Firebenders.
Yes.
When I ran a short High Republic Phase 3 era campaign like Star Wars TTRPG, the main villain of it was a child of the storm who was originally a sorcerer of Tund.
Oh, that's awesome.
So, he would walk into the room and just everything would start on fire as he
Mhm.
and his nameless are walking in there. Fantastic.
So the Sorcerers of
Just yeah,
Tund, yeah, they're it's like Leah said, they're essentially Star Wars firebenders that
they
use the
were
Force.
a one of the various force wielding
Oh, I'm gonna close that.
on Jeddah. There were both force wielding groups and just
Mhm.
force worshipping groups. So force worshipping groups would be like the Church of the Force,
Yeah.
uh, the Guardians of the Wills,
Mhm.
where they're not force sensitive. Some of them maybe are, but like they're
Yeah.
not inherently force sensitive, but they
Yeah.
do still like worship the
Sorry.
force, you acknowledge the force, do stuff with the force.
Yeah.
The sorcerers of Tund are more like the Jedi. They are
Mhm.
all force sensitive. They're wearing like red robes. They look like wizards. They look like they're throwing flames around. They're super cool.
They are. They are. And very intimidating too.
Very
Very
intimidating. And we know that they like have had people fall to the dark side from their group in the
hmm
past, just like the
Yeah.
Jedi.
hmm
Um, we know that they're like I, one of my favorite things about Phase Two of the High Republic is that it really reminds you that like the Jedi were not always the top dogs in the
No.
galaxy when it came to force sensitivity. They they had their era. They used to be in control of Jeddah, and then they didn't. And then like there's this time around Phase Two where like suddenly the Jedi are very much not the only game in town.
hmm
The Sorcerers of Tund are big and notable. They're on
Yeah.
multiple planets across the galaxy. There's um the Guardians of the Wills are like a recognized off of Jeddah, like
hmm
powerful group. The Church of the Force, they're like people go to them for guidance. It's a whole
hmm
thing. And I love that. I love that the Jedi don't have a monopoly on the Force because like Luke says in the Kylo Ren comic, like the Force touches everyone.
hmm
Everyone has a little bit of the Force in them.
Yeah.
It's
That
just a
is.
matter of whether you open the door.
Yeah. That is true.
Uh,
Um. Yeah. I mean, we could talk about it all day long. Just.
I love
Just what
Phase Two of I love all of the High Republic. Don't get me wrong. That's just something I really liked about Phase Two.
I will say this just real quick, since we're talking about High Republic. Phase 2 is actually my favorite phase. I
Really liked Phase
loved it.
Two. Yeah. Don't
Um,
like I'm loving Phase Three.
yeah, Phase
I
3 is
did
good,
not expect to love Phase Three this much. Um, Amadeo
but
Azazo, my special little boy.
yeah, but I feel like the characters in Phase 2 just hit so differently
The
and were
characters in
just so
Phase Two
unique.
definitely got their claws into me so fast.
Oh yeah, like Crichton's son. Oh, love that dude.
From the first page that I saw Rupert Natani, I was like, I love her. She's so good.
And Salandra too. Like,
And Solantra show,
yeah,
yeah. I mean, more Rupert, more Solandra, please.
give us ongoings
Uh,
with them.
oh my god, a post Phase Two ongoing,
hmm Yeah.
or like some post Phase Two. Give me like a Rupert as a new Jedi Knight like
mhm,
YA book. Um,
Yeah.
I have like a wish list of authors who could write it. Anyway, uh,
Um, but going back to the end of the war and Jakku,
yes,
um, we
complete other end
yeah,
Star Wars timeline.
excuse me. I will say this. We we're gonna know more about Jakku because of
Yeah,
this mini series, or I should say
I'm
maxi
excited
series.
for the things that I don't know that I
Yeah,
don't know. You know,
me too. Um, but I will also say this: the war. It's going to be interesting to see this year gap because we are going to be seeing how this war officially does end.
right?
Um, But keep in mind, this is also going to be, and they show this in this first issue. This is going to be the bloodiest part of this war. While
Yeah,
you're saying that this is slowing down, no, this is where
it's
it's also going to hit the fan.
it's simultaneously like it's slowing down because there aren't all of these little skirmishes, but it's also
Yeah,
speeding up because it's every fight is a fight for their lives.
yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
they it's basically like there's not as many of the little hit and runs that they had earlier. It
Yeah,
is the Empire is sending everything that they have left.
mhm,
The Empire is kludging together ships from scrap and
Yeah.
throwing them at the New Republic.
Yeah.
And the Empire does not know how to accept that it's lost, and so
Yeah.
is going to fight like a dying animal.
Hmm. It's
Um,
going to be bloody.
yeah, the Empire has the Empire was barely held together by the sense of decorum in, the Imperial
Yeah.
mindset. It's out the window.
Oh
I
yeah.
If you've played Squadrons, this is me talking to the audience. I love Squadrons.
Oh, me too.
The pilots, the Titan Squadron pilots in Squadrons, are the perfect like microcosm of what the Empire is at this time. They
Hmm.
are hardline zealots who want to die for the Empire.
Shadow Wing's the same thing. Shadow
Shadow
Wing's the
Wing's the
exact
same
same
thing.
thing. Yeah.
That's why I'm like, honestly, Erica for leaving, even though it like took a little push for her to leave, she would not have survived in the Empire for that last year.
Oh no. No, she'd be dead.
She because her whole thing was the principle of it. It's the same thing with Sienna Ree. She
Hmm.
was out of commission for a year and only came back because she was ordered to.
Yeah.
Um, the people who are principled in the Empire, which like, don't get me wrong, Empire always bad. Empire was
Oh yeah.
never good.
No. 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 No.
But even the people who kept the Empire somewhat in line, the people who were there literally because they were like principle of something,
Hmm.
to bring D&D terms into it, the Empire was always lawful evil.
Yeah.
But now all the lawful people are dead, so it's just evil.
It's chaotic evil.
And that's terrifying
Yeah.
for
It is.
the because the New Republic is suddenly in such a different fight. They are
Yeah.
suddenly no longer fighting, big squadrons of perfectly aligned, just a bunch of tie standard ties.
Hmm.
They're fighting against a ragtag group of pilots
Hmm.
flying in every different tie model,
Yeah.
um, cobbled together. These are
Oh, it's
what's his
duct
name?
tape and
Shen,
prayers. Yeah.
the guy who like literally cannot survive outside of his pilot suit anymore.
It's literally duct tapes and prayers that are holding those TIE fighters together.
This the amount of power that each side has switched,
Hmm.
but the Empire has none of the moral compunctions that kept the rebellion from doing everything that they possibly could.
Yeah, but we do see some of those nasty things like in Andor as well, like with
Right.
the rebellion.
But the thing of that is like, yes, certain groups of the rebellion,
Yeah.
were more willing to push things, but like, look, Saw Gerrera does a lot of things. I do not think that Saw Gerrera would glass a planet.
I mean, okay. I will see that, but I will raise
He
you
would orbitally bombard a planet. I will not question that.
him almost wanting to commit genocide on Geonosis with that last Geonosian and the egg.
You have a point.
Doesn't the
The
Empire?
Empire doesn't have. So they did, but the second that the Emperor is dead, the second that Mon Mothma can stand up on the holovids and say the Emperor is dead.
Yeah.
Saw did not kill Tech. The Fall killed Tech. Uh,
No, Saul killed Tech.
Gravity killed Tech.
No,
Uh,
Saw killed Tech. Stand by that.
um,
But I get what you're saying. Well, here's the
Jar
thing.
Jar Binks killed Tech by that logic. Anyway,
Dello
uh,
Feligates. That's um. But
um, but the Empire, once the Emperor is dead, once the leadership of the Empire falls
Mhm,
apart, and the New Republic can start to pick them apart piece by piece. They don't have hundreds of planets loyal to them.
mhm.
They have tens of planets loyal to
Yeah,
them. They
the
have
sectors start collapsing.
they had functional factories, and then they cindered the factories.
Well,
They destroyed their own factory worlds. They destroyed their own
yeah.
allies
So,
because,
yeah, pretty much whatever factories the rebels didn't destroy, the Empire did,
yeah, scorched earth. That was the Emperor's policy.
and it worked.
It worked. The New
Uh,
Republic was scrambling. They did not know
yeah.
how to handle this because
Not condoning scorched earth.
not condone it. It worked negatively.
It did.
It because the Empire can't build new Star
Mhm.
Destroyers after the war ends. They're having to fix what's left. Tarkin's will in the comics was a total outlier
It
as
was.
this like rebuilt, broken Star Destroyer.
Even the
But like,
Chimera.
but that becomes the standard
Yeah.
after Endor.
Mhm.
Um, by the time of the Battle of Jakku, there are like single digit number um superstar destroyers left. There's very few that are left. One of them is controlled by a pirate.
That is true. That is true.
Um, Star destroyers are getting captured by the New Republic and turned
Mhm.
into New Republic ships.
And that's what happens in Squadrons. Like, one of
That's
the
what happens
missions
in
is that.
Squadrons. That happens in that's like mentioned in Aftermath. They talk about
Yeah,
it in Aftermath.
yeah.
Um, and that's also like part of what they do in Lost Stars. They are taking down Star Destroyers from the inside.
So awesome.
Um, and the ties, yeah, they one the whole thing about ties and the whole thing about the whole way that the Empire works is the Zap Brannigan model of throwing bodies at the enemy until
Yes.
there's so many bodies that it clogs up their blasters, and then you can shoot them.
Gift.
The Empire suddenly no longer has an infinite supply of soldiers and an infinite supply of TIE fighters. They
Yep.
suddenly are fighting
They're
like the
doing the Zap
rebellion
Brannigan
was.
thing. Yeah.
They suddenly are fighting like the rebellion was, but
The moral compass.
without the moral compass.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because that's the other thing. Saw absolutely would kill a lot of people,
He would.
but his goal is still to kill the Empire first.
Oh, yeah.
The Empire's goal was just to kill at this
Hmm.
time. They are a rabid animal lashing
Yeah.
out.
No, they really are. They really are. They
They
are an
went from being
animal
an
with its
attack
back to the
dog to
wall.
a rabid Wolverine. Like
Yeah.
it's not a pretty time in the war. It's gonna
No.
be horrible. Um,
We're going to be there for
and
every
I'm
step of it.
so excited to see it in these comics.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
Well, I think we covered
Well,
a lot. I,
we
I think
cover.
we covered a
It's a
lot.
crazy period of the galactic
It
history. I'm
is.
so
It is.
excited to see what they do with it.
Me too.
Um,
It is a crazy period. It is one of those things where, I mean, anything can happen in this.
it's.
In this.
I mean, it's it's the least explored part of the Galactic Civil War.
Yeah.
Um, and everything that we have from it is amazing.
It really is. It really is.
Just some of the best stories in Star Wars
Hmm.
take place during this era.
Yeah. So all I'm gonna say is buckle up because it's going to be a ride.
Buckle up,
Yeah.
put on your helmets. Please keep your hands and arms inside the TIE fighter as it
Yeah.
crashes into Necronus's silt.
All I'm gonna say is I'm just gonna quote Lando from Solo. You might want to buckle up, baby, because because yeah, some stuff is going to happen, and
It's a
yeah,
big
it's
year
going to
in
be wild.
galactic history.
Yeah. So that's it for us. Once again, no live show next week. I am going to be out of town again. I know, boo. But it's cool. We're visiting some of my friends, so that'll be a lot of fun. But then we'll have a live show the week after, so get ready for that. We'll do a Halloween live show. We are gonna talk about our favorite spooky Star Wars stories and spooky Star Wars moments. So
Ooh.
get ready for that. Yeah, I'm going to be putting some notes together for that. It's going to be a lot of fun. But yeah, that is it for us. May the force be with you. May you always fight for light and life. And remember, at the end of the day, we are all the Republic. Until next time, we'll see you later.
Yub
Goodbye.
nub.
Yub nub.